Hello, you wonderful soul. In many conversations, I have found that many people have often made several attempts to change their lives or even completely realign them. And unfortunately, they often failed at various points in time and often didn't know why. And if you are also affected by this, I will explain in this video what to consider and why you might be stuck here right now. It's a very exciting topic. Stay tuned. My name is Riedel, following the shamanic path for 20 years and initiated in the traditions of the Incas and Blackfoot. I have been dealing with this topic for almost my entire life and have, of course, tried multiple times to change my life. At first, I had no success until I accepted help from outside and was then able to dramatically change my life, learning many things in the process. And that's why I have definitely become an expert in this field and can truly help people make lasting, sustainable changes in their lives. Yes, and then we come to the first point, that the will and the promise to oneself must already be so very strong that you really, truly, genuinely want it and are indeed absolutely willing to accept, indeed embrace, challenges and difficult phases, so that you also realize that the path of least resistance, which may seem logical, is often not the right one. Most people who can successfully and effectively implement this for themselves are usually in a very deep and serious crisis, where their entire old life has collapsed and it definitely and absolutely can't continue in that direction anymore, and they are now practically forced by life to take a new direction. And it can even go so far that in this combination, when life actually falls apart, a serious illness can in fact also be a trigger. That means I want to give you a picture. Imagine you are standing with your back against the wall and you can no longer avoid me. You can only take a new direction. If you imagine that at this very moment, there is only one way to change, and as long as you are not backed into a corner and there are still some escape routes actually available, in fact, it is often very likely that people do not want to change because there is still a plan B. And the second point is why people often get stuck. They lack awareness of their energy in general and understanding. All the people who come to me have indeed, without exception, too little energy. And on top of that, they accumulate heavy energies from the past in their system over time, and emotions and experiences. Heavy energy means feelings that have not been fully experienced or completely resolved, for example, such as severe traumatic experiences and the associated fears, for instance, sadness, helplessness, powerlessness, guilt or shame, and more. And that's precisely why they may feel like they can certainly no longer be happy in their lives and often perceive life as a burden. And to really illustrate this, maybe you know this from your own experience, I want to give you a picture. Just imagine you have a backpack strapped on, and with every heavy experience or unresolved situation, more and more of this heavy energy accumulates in the backpack, weighing you down. And in the beginning, when you are still young, it's first 5 kilos, then it's 6 kilos, 7 kilos, and so on, 10 kilos, 20 kilos. Over the years and even decades, it becomes increasingly difficult because no one has shown us what it really means to deal with this heavy energy. Also, to release them from our body. And then it reaches a point where the backpack is so heavy, let's say around 50 kilos or even more, that it even cuts in and you feel like life is a burden. And you don't know any different because you're constantly and always walking around with this heavy backpack strapped on, and you have no awareness anymore of what it even means to truly live a life full of ease and burdensome. And that's why the first important thing we need to focus on is significantly raising the energy, so that you can hold more energy within yourself. And the second is to gradually let go of your heavy feelings and heavy energies. Because if you also feel that this definitely applies to you, you can absolutely comment below, as many other people feel the same way. You are not alone in this, indeed, as this is truly the state of almost everyone who comes to me. So if you really want to truly and genuinely change, you should indeed completely empty the glass first before you can fill it afterward. This means that it does you no good to have any positive thoughts in any way. use visualization techniques, and continuously and consistently try to stay positive if the glass is still full of your heavy energy. So in this case, it means to empty it first. Take care of the heavy energies first so you can fill your glass with new, fresh energy more and more. In order to better understand the various challenges that may potentially arise during this transition, I would like to provide you with yet another example. Imagine that the life you have lived so far has a barely noticeable and almost imperceptible and very subtle downward spiral where you gradually get 1 or 2% worse every single day. It costs you about 1% more energy each and every single day than you can recharge. This means you hardly notice it at all, in fact. And it may be that you have various habits that are not good for you or are surrounded by a difficult environment that drains more energy from you than is good for you. And at some point, you reach exactly that point where you generally have too little energy available for your current life in general, typically. And then you feel and realize that you need to change something now. You just can't do it any other way. To truly change your life now, you need more energy in this phase to reverse the downward spiral that is active in you into an upward spiral. I refer to this phase as the hot phase because you need more energy, more attention, and more focus during this phase to pay close attention to what you can and must change. I will elaborate on this in a moment. But once you have truly and genuinely managed to realign yourself and completely integrate new habits, not just externally but also in how you treat yourself, that will also change, and thoroughly. And how you can manage to retain more energy within yourself to focus and nurture your vision even more clearly. Then you have a realignment. As I said, it costs more energy at the beginning. And I can definitely draw a comparison to learning how to drive a car. You can probably still remember your very first driving lesson, how extremely focused you were and almost overwhelmed. And if you compare that to how you drive a car now, you subconsciously regulate everything, have conversations on the side, listen to music, because it has become a habit for you, meaning it has been programmed deeper into your subconscious, so it has basically become an automatic process. So in this particular case, be aware that change necessitates more energy, focus, and concentration and effort at the beginning, until it eventually becomes a habit for you. Don't underestimate this. The next reason why many people are stuck is that they only know their old universe, which is like a bell around you or a sphere around you, which is familiar and comfortable, where you only know what is inside this sphere or bubble, not what lies beyond it. And everything outside of this bubble is not possible for you. You don't see it, you don't perceive it. Okay, so you understand this first. Then we come to the next step. So if you indeed want to live a life you've never truly lived before, feel as good as you've never actually felt before, or live in an abundance you've never had in your life before, or, of course, if you have a partner by your side that you never had before, such a wonderful partnership that you can live, then it is outside your old universe, outside your comfort zone, which is a place where you feel safe and secure. Stepping outside this comfort zone can bring new experiences and growth. This specifically means for you that you are allowed to think, feel, and act differently outside of this sphere, which includes your interactions with others and your own self-reflection. So, in a way, you are allowed to develop a new consciousness that makes this life, which is outside your old universe, possible at all. Yes, that sounds indeed theoretically quite straightforward at first, if we are not confronted with our gatekeepers of fears, actually, in reality. Fears, doubts, and your inner critic that constantly tries to belittle you or keep you in your old life because that's where you feel safe. And during this phase, intense resistance often arises, manifests itself, which you can hardly overcome on your own. What I have personally experienced throughout my entire life tangibly means that you are massively confronted head-on with your old ideas and beliefs. And in this phase, you might suddenly be confronted with massive fears, panic attacks. I have experienced all of this before. or unfounded doubts that can sometimes make you feel incredibly small and utterly helpless, which can often come up during this particular time. Or you might perhaps indeed find yourself in a very strong environment that indeed wants to keep you in your old role or see you in it. For example, if you are or were a pleaser in your life, meaning that only when everyone else is doing well, you allow yourself to feel good too. It may be that you were the energy source for your surroundings. And if you no longer make yourself available, it may be that your surroundings strongly rebel and you have to expect confrontations. And going through that alone and staying strong within oneself is truly an enormous challenge, and in some cases indeed almost impossible. That's why you also need professional help in certain situations, as I have experienced myself. And I truly know what it means to be utterly unable to sleep at night because of sheer fear. At that time, I could only fall asleep and calm myself with mantra music, even though I knew where I wanted to go, even though I knew where I wanted to align myself, but my old pattern had still become active. So in that sense, it is very, very good if you have some support. Or it could be that such strong self-doubt arises, where you start to believe that it all makes no sense, that you can't do it, and you wonder what you were even thinking, and so on and so forth. And it can happen that sometimes when you want to change, you initially make progress, but then fall back into your old life, initially. And above all, when people want to follow the shamanic path in their journey, they will very quickly be confronted with the fact that as their new abilities and perceptions and experiences are increasingly activated, strong resistances and challenges will arise. Your transformation is not about theoretical knowledge, as many coaches and consultants also come to me who are still stuck despite knowing a lot. It's about the specific resistances, doubts, beliefs, or emotions, maybe even dramatic experiences that you have genuinely and truly left behind, which are really, truly, and actually hindering you from moving forward. And those are often the blind spots that we often cannot perceive within ourselves. That's why I also seek help from shamans, coaches, or other experienced people and like mentors. Because if you carry blind spots within you, that's why they're called blind, you don't perceive them in yourself. And that's why the lever from the outside is often easy to recognize. And then you can start to change once you begin to recognize this. Change specifically means living your daily life in a different way, organizing it in a different way, and also treating yourself differently. That also means applied knowledge, so you don't just do a meditation and feel good for a short time and then go back to your old habits, but apply everything new in your life. And for that, I want to give you a new perspective. Imagine living as your true self, and truly unfolding your true potential is like reaching the summit of a mountain. If you want to reach it, but you are currently in the valley, of course, you can also try to climb this peak or this mountain piece by piece on your own, figuring everything out. And I would naturally do that too if I were 20 or 25 now. But to really reach the mountain peak safely now, it makes more sense for me personally to have a good, experienced mountain guide with me who knows the route very well, who can tell you when it's time to really push through, when it might be sensible to take a break, or when it might be nice to enjoy the view and take in the beautiful scenery. And I would like to address this again here. If you are currently in the valley, many who are currently in the valley indeed think that from the universe of this valley, that it is the only truth. Indeed, it is the only truth. But as soon as you start making your way step by step and can climb the next higher hill, you will have a completely different view, different perspectives, and naturally different opportunities, thereby expanding your universe. And that's what many people in fact misjudge. They always actually evaluate it from the old bubble, from the old valley. And that's why I'm giving you this extremely valuable tip and want to strongly encourage you to embark on the journey, at least to the next higher hill. With that, you have a different perspective, different possibilities, and thus a certainty that, wow, it really works. I have already changed. Yes, by now I have indeed been able to help many people truly realign their lives towards their peak, towards their potential. And that's exactly what indeed makes me so happy, my own experiences that I can share with others, that it has exactly this impact. And that brings me such incredible, immense joy and fulfillment that I can truly, absolutely live my calling by watching other people grow. And the next very important point is to definitely surround yourself with people who are on the same path as you. Then you quickly realize that others are also going through these processes and that you are actually quite normal. In comparison, when you go the path alone, you might sometimes often feel that you are not normal, that it no longer makes sense, and so on. And that means your doubts and these fears can significantly negatively impact your life and change in your daily life and overall well-being. In comparison, like when you are in a community environment, the community environment accelerates your own growth in various ways. And I compare that to a plant, which, when placed in the right spot, consequently thrives and blooms on its own, fortunately without needing any additional help. And if you were to place this plant in the desert, which is obviously very symbolic, it would hardly grow, or it might even be impossible for it to bloom and thrive if you are in the wrong environment. Yes. And now just imagine that the beautiful thing is indeed you're not a tree or a plant. You can completely change yourself at any time. You're not stuck here at all. You can absolutely change your whole entire environment at any time and surround yourself with people who truly benefit you in every way imaginable and are perfectly aligned with where you want to be. In conclusion, I would like to address the last obstacle, that many people expect too much from themselves, even in a short period of time. This indeed reminds me of a saying: most people truly overestimate what they can significantly achieve in a year, but they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. So give yourself enough time for your changes, because if you imagine now that you change by only 1% per day, barely perceptible at all, hardly noticeable in fact, you won't notice it much in a week, but in half a year or even an entire year, it will make quite a significant and substantial difference. Yes, those were just my thoughts on this topic, and if you like this video, feel free to share it with others or pass it along. And if you want more insights or a glimpse into my daily routines, just follow me on Instagram. The link is below in the description. See you next time. Bye. Ciao. Goodbye.